Good day everyone, and welcome back. I think it goes without saying that most SCP fans would highlight 1762 if they were asked to name a sad tale. But the best thing about SCP is that there is no underlying canon. So while they may be gone, there are no rules to say that a band of rogues cannot risk everything to bring back their paper-winged friends. And with that being said, I present to you the Return of SCP-1762. Before we revisit the dragons though, a quick word from today's sponsor, Surfshark. Surfshark is a fast, easy to install VPN service that is jam-packed with loads of amazing features. Let's talk travel. Surfshark will overcome location-based price discrimination so that you get the best travel prices, connect to a server in your home country to prevent your bank account from freezing, safely connect to public Wi-Fi, and even bypass geo-blocks such as those in China to access your favourite websites. Let's talk streaming. By just connecting to the relevant server in the right country, you will unlock that country's entire Netflix library, a whole host of other limited streaming services such as BBC iPlayer and Hulu, and unlock additional content on most other platforms as well. Let's talk privacy. With uncrackable encryption, IP and DNS leak protection, no data logs, automatic personal information leak notifications, the ability to full apps that track your location, and 100% RAM-only servers in British Virgin Islands jurisdiction, no person or law firm can track, access, or log your internet data. From one subscription, you can install Surfshark on an unlimited number of devices across all platforms, from PC to PlayStation, from Linux to Amazon Fire Stick. You get 24/7 customer support, a 30-day money-back guarantee, and if you sign up now, a lovely 83% discount. Use the link below and install Surfshark today. The final words on a cardboard box. Here were dragons. The words were etched into Dr. Takanaka's brain, like a brand on a bull's hind quarters. Then the box had combusted, leaving ash and a few inert origami dragons, which now decorated his office. Years had come and gone, but still he would find himself several times a day glancing over to them, wondering what might have been. SCP-1762 relied on fantasy to survive, and fantasy was not tolerated by the Foundation. Either something could be explained by science, or it was just another anomaly. Fantasy had no place here, and so the dragons were now gone, and the gateway was sealed forever. Despite the exhaustive counselling, Takanaka could not let them go. He missed them. Though if his plan worked, he wouldn't miss them for much longer. Still, he couldn't do it alone. Takanaka collected the urn of ashes from his shelf and placed the 1762 corpses into his lab coat's pocket. He smiled and offered passing pleasantries to his co-workers as he made his way down the hall, all the time keeping his hand in his coat in an attempt to hide the urn. He stopped outside a door. He knocked and entered. Dr. Bright looked away from his computer and straight at Takanaka. They exchanged a moment of silence before Bright spoke.
T, are you sure you want to go through with this? Best case scenario, they'll amnesticize you.
I do.
Dr. Bright walked out from behind his desk and gestured towards the door.
Shall we?
A short elevator ride and a couple of bulkheads later, and Takanaka and Bright found themselves entering heavy containment. Bright waved his ID at the guards, and soon enough they were outside the containment chamber. Dr. Bright waved his ID card over the door access panel, and a voice came over the PA.
SCP-239 containment lifted.
Bright and Takanaka stepped into the cell as the guards came running down the corridor.
Full lockdown, seal SCP-239.
Confirmed. Sealing SCP-239.
Bright stepped aside as the guards levelled their rifles and fired several rounds into the door as it closed. The shouts of the guards were muffled, but Takanaka could tell they were already radioing for backup. Bright made his way over to the bed that SCP-239 lay on, and began disconnecting the machines and wires going into her. He opened the wall cabinet and withdrew a syringe.
A shot of adrenaline to wake her up, and we're in business. Put that urn in the cranes over there by the wall.
Not 5 seconds later, SCP-239 sat bolt upright, her green-grey eyes switching between Bright and Takanaka. Takanaka felt uneasy looking into those pupilless globes. Her gaze fixed on Bright as he knelt down in front of her.
Hey there, sweetheart. You've had a really long nap. Do you feel alright?
SCP-239 nodded, and a smile spread across her face as she pointed at Bright's necklace.
Your Uncle Jack missed you too.
She beamed at him.
Listen, sweetie, I don't have a lot of time, but I need you to use your spells for a very special reason. Are you feeling up to it?
She reached for a cup of water on the stand beside her bed. It faded away and was replaced by a strawberry milkshake, which she proceeded to sip from.
What have I told you about too much sugar?
SCP-239 looked at Takanaka with concern.
Well, don't worry about him, that's my friend T. You see that urn over there?
She nodded.
Well, that urn used to be a box. And that box used to be a gateway to a magical land filled with giants and centaurs and elves and the biggest dragons ever.
SCP-239's eyes widened.
Remember the stories I told you and the pictures I showed you of the box and the paper dragons? Well, that urn used to be that box.
Her eyes grew even wider.
Exactly. But the gate has closed. And so my friend T can't see his friends or any of those amazing creatures. Do you think you could reopen the door if you wish really hard?
SCP-239 put down her drink and began fumbling with her hands. She leaned in and whispered into Bright's ear. He gave a small laugh and replied back to her.
Don't worry about them. I'll deal with them. Uncle Jack says you can.
The little girl smiled wide and jumped off the bed. Takanaka gave the girl a hopeful look. Bright put a hand on his shoulder and murmured quietly into his ear.
Stop fidgeting. You'll distract her, or worse, she'll get nervous.
The girl closed her eyes and raised a hand towards the urn. It began to shake, and smoke began to appear from under the lid. The paper cranes rose from the ground and began to circle it. She turned to look at Bright.
You're doing great, sweetheart. Keep going.
A few seconds later, and the lid to the urn was blasted off. The urn pulled in the paper dragons and expelled a dense cloud of purple smoke. Takanaka coughed and waved away the smoke, revealing a battered cardboard box at his feet, with the words, "Here be dragons," written on the side. Tears began to gather as Takanaka stared at the box, hoping, wishing. The little girl gave a small giggle as an origami dragon came flying out of the box, followed by another, and then 2 more, and then 3 more. He failed to hold back his tears as hundreds of origami dragons poured from the box and began flying around him. The girl laughed and spun in circles as they flew around her too. Bright felt a smile form in the corner of his mouth as one landed on his shoulder and began pecking his ear. Takanaka held his arms out and several came to sit on them. They all turned and gave him a familiar look. He choked on his tears as he beamed back at them.
Caution. Lockdown lifted.
The words felt like being plunged into an ice bath. All 3 of them turned to look at the door. The sounds of mechanisms turning and hydraulics hissing was audible through the concrete. Bright suddenly stood firm.
Oh, I know what we could do.
Bright knelt down beside SCP-239.
Listen, sweetie, you remember all those stories I used to read you about the dragons and the giants? Well, these paper dragons come from there. They are paper here, but in their world they are huge and real and breathe fire. Would you like to see it?
SCP-239 frantically nodded.
Well, we can go there, but you need to open the gateway. All you need to do is just wish it was here. The gate to the dragon's world. Then we can all go see the dragons.
The paper dragons began flying around SCP-239. Takanaka was certain he could hear unintelligible words coming from the swarm.
You have to believe, girl.
SCP-239 looked back at the box. She tilted her head and waved her hand once more. A bright light illuminated the entire room, and the box was gone. In its place was a golden metal gate. It swung open, and Takanaka was momentarily stunned by what he saw within.
Friends, you have found us. SCP-239 containment lifted.
The origami dragons began to fly through the gate, their true forms becoming evident as they crossed the threshold. Bright gave the girl a smile and a nod, followed by a hard push in Takanaka's back.
Don't ask questions, take her and go, but wait for me.
The girl skipped through the gate, quickly followed by Takanaka.
What the bloody fuck do you think you are doing, Bright?
As the door lifted, a security team and a suited man came spilling into the room. The man gave Bright a look of pure thunder. Bright took a step backwards through the gate and smiled at the man.
Just taking her out for a breath of fresh air. Don't worry, I'll have her back by tea time. Shoot him!
Bright saluted them all and smiled. Then a second burst of light filled the room as the doorway vanished from existence. And that concludes this entry. I really hope you enjoyed it, and be sure to like and subscribe if you did. A massive thank you to all the patrons and members who keep the channel going. Do consider joining them. And thank you to Rick Trexon, General's Alert, Wings of a Meme, JT Walker, Horizons, Nicholas, Number of the East, Pepperfish, Fallen Angel, Wunderschnell, Wedge the First, Let's Be Friends, Razman, Tufty, Splendy the Tear God, Miss Talon Caro, The Lav and Ken. Big thanks to the council members, Arctoast, Kibara, Captain Core, Hunter Killer, Tree Arctos, Catclone, Kilo, Savagion, Lil Sub, Nick S, Monarch, Kikaran, Hunter and Dante, and huge thanks to the administrators Viger, Kamana, Romulus, GFHD, and Pro Voice Actor. Thank you all for watching, I will see you all soon, and take care.